Hi, I'm Moe Brown with Mpowered Running. In this video, I'd like to share with you the benefits of ditching the data, other than your basic stopwatch info, and running for time as opposed to distance. So more specifically, instead of running, say, 10 miles, you'll run for 90 minutes or 100 minutes. I'll explain why this can be beneficial in this training tip. It's a great time to be a runner. There are so many gadgets out now, or toys as I like to call them, such as GPS watches and fitness trackers, that tracking performance is easier than ever. And while this can be great for motivation, it can also work against us. With all the data at our disposal now, it's very easy to become consumed by it, always being alert to things such as pace and distance throughout each run. And this can happen to the point where we judge the quality of our run based upon whether or not our preconceived notions about our performance were met. Maybe you expect to run a 9-minute mile pace, but you can't seem to get any faster than a 9:30. So you finish your run frustrated by your performance instead of being joyful that you got to run. Also, being too consumed with data can lead to tunnel vision, where you focus primarily on what's directly in front of you as well as the data that's on your watch. Meanwhile, all around you there are spectacular sights such as gorgeous landscapes that might go underappreciated because they're not in your standard line of vision and your thoughts are mostly on your data. These things can and often do contribute to decreased enjoyment of running and potentially even overtraining. What was once something that you look forward to can turn into more of a chore. So instead of thinking, oh, I get to run today, your thoughts might turn to, oh, I have to run today. And by focusing too much on data, you can be less likely to be in touch with how you feel, and therefore less likely to adjust your pace accordingly when needed. Even though we runners like to think of ourselves as superhuman, we're still at least part human. And what that means is energy levels are going to be different from day to day. And hey, even Superman gets exposed to kryptonite once in a while. So some days we're going to feel like we have wings on our feet, and other days like we're running with concrete shoes. And on those concrete shoe days, it might be counterproductive to try and run the same pace as those days when you feel like you have winged feet. So at this point, you may be wondering, how exactly do I run for time? Well, I'll use myself as an example, since I often take this approach when I'm doing my long runs. My standard long slow distance pace average is 8:30 or 8.5 minutes per mile. So if my plan calls for a 10-mile run, I'll instead run for 85 minutes. That way, if I'm just not feeling it that day, I won't end up running at a perceived exertion level that might be equal to, say, 8-minute per mile pace to try and maintain my normal pace. And I won't have to run a longer amount of time than normal to complete the 10 miles. If I'm feeling strong, I may end up running a bit further within that 85 minutes, but that's okay because my total time will still be consistent with my norm. So you would take the same approach. If, for the sake of using a different example, you normally run a 9:15 per mile pace, you would run for 92.5 minutes as a substitute for a 10-mile run. Since 15 seconds is a quarter of 1 minute, your pace translates to 9.25 per mile, and 9.25 times 10 is 92.5. I find this approach especially beneficial in the winter months. Living in the Northeast as I do, it's not uncommon to do long runs on snow-covered sidewalks and streets. Trying to run an 8:30 pace in these conditions, especially after new fallen snow, may involve exerting significantly more effort, which can be counterproductive because the added intensity of the run can make it more difficult to go the prescribed distance. Not worrying about pace, but still trying to go the prescribed distance, can mean a greater workload on the body than the workout calls for, which can require a longer recovery time. So by making the emphasis solely on running for a specified amount of time, these pitfalls can be avoided. Periodically taking this run for a set amount of time approach has brought a whole new level of enjoyment to my running. I'm seeing things on my routes I never saw before, and I reach a state of zen more often, which makes my overall running experience much more meditative. I have an account of one such run on my website, mpoweredrunning.com, in the article titled Blues Busters, so be sure to check that out if you'd like to read more about it, as well as some other techniques for busting the running blues. So I'm certainly not saying that this is the only type of run you should do. Training with data is really beneficial too. But if you're looking for a fresh perspective on your running and a break from the normal routine, you might want to give it a try. Hopefully it all makes sense. Feel free to leave me some questions in the comment section below, or you can contact me at my website, mpoweredrunning.com. I'm Moe Brown, and this has been an Mpowered Running training tip. Thanks for watching, and happy running!